All right, we got some follow up to start off with here. We got a continued question in a dialogue with a previous uh, person who wrote into the show, Ian, who is was asking some advice about architecture school. I think the last time we talked, he was switching into architecture from civil engineering, maybe.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Anyway, so now is uh, potentially, I guess, thinking about changing schools to be closer to home, etc., whatever. But the idea, I think, here is trying to figure out whether there's a difference in types of degrees and how that plays out professionally more than anything, right? So you answered him when he wrote in. So I just wanted to kind of go through your answer because other people might be thinking the same thing and might wonder what the difference is between the different degrees that are available out there for architecture and why one may matter in a different way than another. So
Yeah, because I mean, we talk about this in the profession about the different degrees, one being the Masters of Architecture, one being the Bachelors of Architecture, or the 4.2 program, or the 5-year program, or the 4-year of like environmental design, and then, and all the different kind of like degrees that can lead you into the profession.
and different schools offer different degrees, right? And so this is
Exactly.
kind of where the question's coming in is like there might be a mismatch, especially if you're switching schools. But then there's like just approaching this as a total newbie and saying like, well, what do
Right.
these different things mean?
I will say what's interesting so I'm going to kind of like jump ahead to some part of the conversation that we haven't had yet and say that, a lot of times when you're switching schools, that also plays a factor in your decision making, because I know that we used to, at Auburn, we used to take students who would transfer in with a 4-year degree, but we would actually put them back in 4th year.
It's like
And so they would,
refinancing a loan.
and so they would basically, and a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't like that for the simple fact that, it's like, wait, I've already done my 4th year. Why
You
am I
feel
doing
like
it
you're
again?
losing ground, right?
And in a way, they may feel that way, but in a way, if you think about it, you really aren't, because the only difference is that you would be graduating in the same amount of years is if you were graduating from, say, the whatever program that had a 4+2, and you're not getting the master's degree, but you are getting a professional degree.
Right.
A lot of people would make that sacrifice because they were going into our program because they wanted to do the thesis year at the rural studio. And, it's almost a pay to play type thing where if you want to go there, you've got to kind of earn the right to be there because we've got all these people who've been there. I don't want to make it sound egotistical, but that was sort of a thing. It's like, I mean, there's so many people on the waiting list to go out there that have been part of the program for 4 years, that to then just have kind of a carpetbagger come in and,
Is that what that? Wow.
I mean, it is the South, and, people
see.
just coming in and taking over spots and stuff, that's
I
what
see how it is.
yeah. But anyway, I am getting ahead of myself. So,
Okay.
I'd reached out to Ian and said that I wasn't quite sure. I was kind of assuming that the program that he was coming from was a 4+2, and, being closer to home, they've got a 5-year B.Arch program. And so, that obviously starts the question. The question is, what do you want to do with your career, right? Because it's not as, in a way, for me, it's never cut and dry of like, oh, get a bachelor's degree over a master's degree, or get a master's degree over a bachelor's degree. There's so many caveats to that. And my questions to him was, what would you like to do? Do you want to just go into practice? Do you want to go into practice and eventually maybe teach?
Do you
There
want to
are
get licensed? I mean, there's a lot of questions to ask there that you may not know the answer to right now,
Exactly.
and makes it even harder to choose.
Right. Now, I will say that there is the one benefit to him switching from where he's at to being closer to home is that he's closer to home. And we all know school's tough. And we all know that, if this is your first foray away from, your family and friends and everything else that, just the distance can be tough.
Can
I
make
mean,
it even harder. Sure.
I'm going through this with my middle child right now, who is, not only did we move away from his friends, that was already a 9-hour move away from them. He went another 9 hours away to school. And so he's 9 hours away from us. He's 18 hours away from all of the friends that he grew up with. And I wouldn't say that he's necessarily having a tough time, but he would probably have a better time, or at least an easier transition to such different changes if he was a little bit closer, or at least just had access to family.
There's that part of it. The friend part is, I think most, at least what I'll speak from my experience. I kind of think it's probably similar for you too. Just our generation. It was everybody left and went to college in various directions all over the place. It was like scatter all of a sudden, right? And I don't keep in touch. And this is probably, I'm more of the exception here in this, that I don't keep in touch with anybody from high school anymore, and I haven't for a very, very long time. And I think that that's more abnormal than normal. I know a lot of people who still go to their reunions. At least we don't even have those. Like,
so congratulations, you're still alive.
And then there's my middle son, who doesn't ever want to leave this town because of his friends, and like it's kind of he's still at that level of maturity, right? Like he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet, and he thinks he knows everything, of course, but it's I think it would be great for him to get away and like experience completely new things in a completely different environment. And is it hard? Yeah. Is it challenging? Of course it is. But that's the kind of the point too.
Yeah, I will say this, just as a side note to like my son, even though he is 18 hours away from his friends, or 9 hours away from his family, honestly, he is thriving more than I thought he was. One, because he took a gap year, and so he kind of went into it, a little bit older. Mm-hmm. Boys, as we all know, tend to mature slower than girls do.
There,
or just like they boys. Just boys,
right?
And honestly, a lot of his friends are having a bigger struggle than he is, and I have been always one, and this is coming from somebody who went into the Army before I went to school, that I just wasn't ready. I mean, I could have gone off to school. Well, I could have tried to go off to school, and then go that route, and probably have been starting my career a lot sooner than I did. But the one reality that I had, other than probably not being able to afford it, was the fact that I knew I wasn't ready. People almost feel embarrassed when they're like, "Oh, my son's taking a gap year," and you just like start muttering it under their breath. It's just like, and I'm like, "Hey, my son's taking a gap year. You know why he's taking a gap year? Because he's just not ready." And I would much rather him be ready to get his head into his studies rather than go there like some of his friends that went their first year, suffered, pissed it away, they partied it away, they were like, "Hey, I'm free," and all that other stuff. So back to, the conversation with Ian. So instead of, our children, it comes back to this conversation that you have to have with yourself with, depending on degree for architecture. What do you want to do in your future? If you want to practice, there is no shame. In fact, you and I both are B.Archers.
Yeah.
And I loved the program that I went through. I loved the fact that they actually condensed what would traditionally be a master's program, with a master's thesis down into a 5-year program, but had so many different opportunities that it offered us. And so, I mean, now, did I know any better? No. I mean, because, it's my first foray into college. And, as I was going through it, I was just like, I like this college. And
exactly. Yeah. Didn't think too hard about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you
Now,
could get into an analysis paralysis kind of a situation with this.
exactly. And I would say that there have been times where I've lamented about, wanting to teach. And there are some opportunities that you can just teach or be kind of like a visiting instructor with a B.Arch.
You could
But
be an adjunct, sure.
yeah, but most people aren't going to hire you if there's better candidates out there with a master's degree.
It depends. Like they need adjunct. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't like that. It's rare that a tenure track or tenureship comes up, right? So those are very competitive, and they do require probably a very high end master's degree. And I don't know a better way to say that, but
Yeah.
I know like at Cal Poly Pomona where I was teaching for a decade, like when they wanted to hire somebody for a tenure track position, they were looking at everybody and it was very competitive and they did not want people from that school, the school that it was. They wanted people with a diverse background. So they wanted degrees from all over with a varied set of experiences. So it was kind of reverse nepotism kind of thing, right? It was just like, no, we will not. We're not even looking at candidates who went to school here. Right, we're looking for a completely diverse perspective.
In a lot of places, I hear that same story, and it's interesting enough is that Auburn's been somewhat different, where not only do they hire those candidates from different places, they also hire they go the nepotism route, and they say
they like
hey,
the alumni.
They love the alumni because
they understand what they're trying to do.
I would. You may not understand this, and most everybody who I'm going to say this to and listening to aren't going to understand this. But I'll give you an example. Auburn just fired their head coach for football. Yes, I'm talking sportsies right now, so I'm giving a sports analogy here.
I got to do something else right
exactly. Go get yourself a cup of coffee. But so their interim head coach is Carnell Williams, who was a star running back for Auburn and had gone on to the NFL and had a great pretty good career, and he's back as a running backs coach and an assistant head coach there, and now he's the interim head coach. The interviews that he's done since being named the interim head coach and the energy and the excitement around having an Auburn alumni as the head coach is something that's really hard to explain. And really, so Auburn does that. Auburn likes to hire people who understand Auburn. And, interestingly enough, the Southeastern Conference schools, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Tennessees, Vanderbilt, places like that, they like to have people who understand them, understand the place and understand kind of like who they are, where they're coming from. And so, it's interesting that you say that, your school, they don't really want to hire, or, there's schools that don't really want to hire alumni. I've found that like the schools that I'm familiar with that, were rival schools to my school are absolutely the opposite. They want those people there.
It may not be true anymore. That was a long time ago. So I don't know, but that was definitely, I heard that many times. Anyway, to your point of do you want to teach or not is also ambiguous, right? Because a master's degree allows you to pursue a tenure track position versus an adjunct position or a visiting lecturer or whatever. But beyond that, I mean, most people who get an MArch, and I don't actually know the data behind this. I'm just this is going from my gut. Have another professional or have another degree that was a different kind of undergraduate degree, and they get a master's in architecture so that they can become an architect and go work in architecture and get hired just into a career in architecture. And because you can't really do that as an accountant or as a graphic designer or a mechanical engineer or whatever, right? You can't go work in architecture easily, at least without having some credentials in university to go to architecture school. So a lot of MArch programs are those. There are, of course, the MArch programs that get added on top of a B.Arch, which is, if that were the case, I think, the B.Arch is a great foundation. in that case, the MArch is not a general architectural education. It should be utilized for a specialty, right? It should be something highly specialized in the field, like computational design or sustainability, or something that you're really passionate about, choosing a trajectory in your career that is more specific and special inside of architecture. That's my advice in that realm.
So now, kind of like the finale of his question was, is there a difference between the two types of degrees that you've seen professionally? Now, let's talk about it in the profession. You are a practicing architect.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between having an M.Arch or a B.Arch in practice? My experience, no.
Yeah, I think it depends what you want to do with your career. I mean, I know people who do the exact same things with either one of those degrees. But then I also know people who have very specialized M.Archs because maybe they got an undergraduate in architecture, right? So the difference we're making here is do you have an architecture undergrad or not? Because if you do, and then you add an M.Arch, it is specialized. If you don't, then you're basically the same when you graduate as a B.Arch as an M.Arch with some other undergraduate degree.
Yeah. But, I know that I'm just going to take, for instance, folks who have an M.Arch in our office. They went to 4+2 programs. Mm-hmm. And I know a whole boatload of other architects in our office.
4+2 architecture plus architecture, or something else plus architecture?
So the 4+2 is 4 years of undergrad architecture and the 2 years of grad architecture.
Got it. Okay.
And then I know a lot who went to just the 5-year B.Arch, mm-hmm. places like Virginia Tech and things like that. But Maryland offers a 4+2.
Okay.
So, so we work side by side with all the different, like B.Arch versus M.Arch, and there's no real haha, I've got an M.Arch and haha, I've got a B.Arch because, I got it, I'm at the same place with just 1 year less. There's none of that, silliness. It literally is. It's just we are all here together. We're here to, enrich our process, our journey through the profession, and just make the profession better. And
for the most part, people don't even talk about what school you graduated from. And
true.
And then there's even further ways we can confuse this.
Exactly.
Like 5 years master's programs in architecture. Yeah. And also, what was I going to say? There was another one that I had, but then I lost it.
Well, I will say this, that somebody was, I saw this post.
Licensure upon graduation as well, right? There's those as well. So.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is, we had talked about some, of the more recent Auburn graduates who experienced that, licensure upon graduation. And so there's no way that we're actually answering this to any satisfaction for Ian.
I know.
I just say that we're probably
shouldn't have asked us. Jeez.
Yeah, I was going to say you're probably confused. We've confused you even more, but it really is. It's just a decision on the path. And honestly, if you want to be closer to, home, be closer to home. If you're going to go out and just practice architecture, and I don't say that as you're just going to go practice architecture, but if that's what you want, if that's your direction of your career, you can make whatever you want out of your profession. That isn't going to be handicapped by whether or not you chose B.Arch for M.Arch, right?
I don't know. I don't have an M.Arch. So. My wife does. And I mean, as far as I know, that there's no difference.
Look, I know people who are presidents of companies who have no arc, and then there's others who only have a B.Arch or, things like that. And so, lots of friends of mine that graduated with a B.Arch from Auburn, they went on to own their own, business and, are thriving and are having, exceptional careers with just 5 years.
Just 5 years.
Just 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really
reducing me to nothing.
Well, I suppose I reduced myself as well.
So I would also just say that, I was just lamenting with a friend of the show when I was at Monterey Design Conference about this whole, I went to school near where I lived. with my parents, right? When I was in college, it was way cheaper. It was way cheaper. And that was the biggest driving factor behind it. I missed out on so much of the quote unquote college experience because I was always at home. And that's where my friends were when I was not doing architecture, which was rarely anyway. So I didn't do much hanging out with them. But when I hung out with my old friends but not in studio is the big point here. So that was at that time a conscious decision that is something that I would personally change if I could ever do it again. And I'm not going to, but if I could do it over, I think I would have had more independence from home life and more dependence on the studio life. And again, this gets into like the whole like toxic studio cultures that do exist versus expectations of professors and all those things aside. I feel like this is the one chance that I had to get fully immersed in architecture, and I didn't get all that I could have out of that. So just throwing that out there, because I do think that like if you're going quote unquote home, I mean, there's good and bad with that as far as like just how immersed you want to get. And maybe you just don't even know. Like I can't go back and change it, right? It is what it is. And so, okay. But looking back, I wished I had had that.
I was coming in as an older freshman. Well, not really freshman because I was transferring from another school, but this was all after the Army. And we did first year as a summer option program. So it was just the full first year of architecture school condensed down into a summer semester. And then there was the first year folks that, had gone through the whole thing. And then once we all got to second year, there's this interesting rift between summer oppers, which was me, and the first year folks, because they're like, oh, you didn't go through the same misery that we went through. And then we're like, you didn't go through
equal.
You didn't go through the same misery we did because we did your entire 1 year in 8 weeks. So so it was just like this so funny like little rift between the two. And so even the kind of like quote unquote studio life and all that other stuff had this like layer of kind of like, you're not like us. Well, you're not like us, kind of thing. It was so silly and stupid, but and then of course me being older and I remember they were just like, wait, you were in Desert Storm? I remember watching that on TV during when I was in high school. Like, ugh, shut up.
That was me, sir.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
So I don't think we've answered this question, and I don't think it's possible that we can. I think that there are multiple paths to architecture, and you have to pick what is the best for you right now. I think you should look at the quality of the education that each school offers. Does the degree itself matter? I think it doesn't matter so much because you can always augment it later to get what you need out of it to go where you want to go. So I think you should focus on quality, not speed, not proximity to home, anything like that. If you can prioritize quality as the top thing, I would start there. And like 5-year B.Arch, fantastic. 4+2, fantastic. Do you even know if you want to get licensed? I don't know. Like that matters, right? With an accredited degree I should say a degree from an accredited program. That NCARB cares about that. When you want to start pursuing licensure, you have to have a certain accreditation requirement achieved to even be eligible to start testing. A lot of people never get their license, right? So that doesn't even matter to them. So there is no like right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. And I think for a lot of people, it's just this very squiggly road just choose the best thing that you can now and change it in an ongoing way so that you're just constantly reevaluating and getting the most that you can out of it. Because, and we've talked about this so many times on the show, what you put into it is a huge part of what you get out of it. And so, just picking some school by some name recognition or whatever, I don't think is as high of a qualitative way to look at it as, talk to other students. What's amazing now is everybody's online. You can actually talk to students and get firsthand accounts and referrals for professors, for the programs themselves. Like, I was just lamenting the other day about how I used to register for classes on the phone and typing in those numbers, right? Like things have changed so much. There is no way. It would have been very difficult for me to just interview some people and ask them what it's like. You can totally prototype this up front and just by talking to people. And I think students are totally willing to steer you in a direction based on their experience as well. So you want to widen the sampling range as well. You don't want to just interview one person from each place. You want to kind of get multiple perspectives.
Right. And the school you're at right now, and you've been, you're now at least a semester into it, if not more.
Talk to those later on students,
Talk to the later on students, see what, how, what they've enjoyed, what they've, wish was different. Talk to graduates, talk to professionals that have, the degree from the school you're at now. Also talk to, graduates of the school you're thinking about potentially transferring to. Visit that school too, walk the halls, look at, their program. You're going to find
those resources, look at those facilities, like exactly. All of that plays a part in it. Yeah, exactly.
Because I totally 100% agree with you that it's about the quality of the education that you're going to get, and so that really should be the. I know I was talking about it may be easier for you if you're closer to home, maybe not. I mean that's again kind of a. What you're looking for not only quality of school but quality of life, mm-hmm. And so I think just there's so many different factors, and that's why we honestly can't really answer it in a way that's just a declarative. It's like you should do this,
right?
Because there's so many factors in there.
Yeah.
All
right.
So yeah,
that's it.
We'll give you the name of our therapist.
Yeah. All right. So you got to visit a project recently. You sent me some pictures of this thing, and it's like kind of a top-heavy looking building. I don't know.
It's a top-heavy looking building for a reason, because it is a building that is basically being built from the top down. And you say, wait, doesn't that defy gravity? Well, it sure does, Evan. Thanks for asking. No, so it's the Exchange Tower in Detroit, and it's being built by the Lift Build Company. And the Lift Build Company is not only the name of the company that's developing it, both in the rationale behind the type of construction, but also literally the way that they're actually building it. And so, I've been visited downtown a couple of times, and one thing that I did promise myself when I was moving to Detroit was I was going to kind of immerse myself within the architectural community and really just try to learn as much as I can about the place that I live now. And so obviously transferred my AIA membership from AIA Maryland to AIA Michigan, and then my local component is AIA Detroit. And, just wanted to get involved with, or at least, take advantage of AIA Detroit and what they have to offer. I mean, we've had conversations in the past on, criticizing AIA, but not really being involved with AIA and things like that. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to just get involved in just whatever I can, whatever I would like to do. I just want to at least experience and network with local Detroit architects. So they came out with a building tour. I love doing building tours.
Sure.
Especially if they're not mine, because
if there's a question, do you want to do a building tour? The answer is yes.
The answer is always yes. But this was an extraordinarily unique one. And so we will definitely post pictures in the show notes. So please take a look at those. Also look up Lift, Lift, Build in Detroit. and it'll take you to videos, it'll take you to all of these things. But so let me explain the concept. So they it's an urban site, small footprint building, small footprint site. It kind of baffled me, when I went there. I was just like, what would be the benefits of it? And then I just started talking to myself before I started talking to anybody else about what I thought the benefits were. So what they did is they built 2 elevator cores. Those 2 elevator cores are basically their shear walls and kind of like their primary structure. And they built 15 stories plus the mechanical penthouse and everything else. And what they've essentially done is created 2, let's just call them that they're parallel. So if you guys are like, if you just put your hands up and made like the touchdown sign symbol, then that is literally like, those are the 2 cores. And so there's
it looks like 2 towers, but they're just concrete elevator cores and stair cores.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And so then what they do is they basically build a platform, or build on the ground a steel platform that is your floor plate. They start to do things like pre-wire, pre-plumb. They start running like mechanical systems for the floor below, not the floor above, but not the floor you're on, but the floor below.
Mm-hmm.
And they essentially lift that up into place.
They jack it up.
They jack it up.
2 towers as the structure to jack those up along.
Yeah. So if you look at again, please either look, just
we'll put a link to
Google
it in the
search.
Too. Yeah.
Take a look at the photos. They essentially create an elevator platform out of the floor plate, and
Mm-hmm.
then they lift it up into place. It's they said it's 30 feet per hour.
Okay.
That it goes up. And so, something that goes to the top is, going to take, a couple hours. And then obviously the lower floor is going to be in place, in no time. And so then they load the floor up with like all of your interior partitions and, all of the, fixtures and everything else. So you don't really have to like, hey, I'm going to have to carry, a toilet up through the elevators and, take it to the floor. No, everything's lifted into place and then put into place once it's, locked into the position. But all of the exterior walls are put up while it's on the ground.
So is that really the benefit? Is they're just doing all the work on the ground? And
yeah.
So safety-wise,
there's
obviously you don't need the cranes, et cetera.
Quality control of, some of the finishes and stuff. They lay out every interior partition by basically a Roomba robot that goes out and basically lasers out all of the...
It's a printer. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So they print
them out. Yeah, super
it's
cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked with people in the past who have done projects like that. I believe Shop was doing things like that. We've I've seen things like that in our projects, but then I've also seen the more typical, more conventional. So I was talking to the developer, and he I was like, have you done like a pro forma on like the cost benefits and stuff like that, and he was talking about there's a lose money kind of height to a building with this approach. There's a break even height to a building, being built by this approach, and then there's a value added. You actually like increase the efficiency, cost, and everything else. On things that are higher. And he was saying that like the sweet spot is kind of like a 20 to 50 story building. You've got these 2 towers that are like up in the air. Now, it does limit the amount of like weight that you can put on your exterior facade, because let me explain this to you. So as you're lifting this up, you've got these two cores. The span between the 2 cores is about 55, 60 feet between the 2 cores. And then essentially from those cores in the north-south direction and east-west direction, it's cantilevered out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cantilevered out usually, like he said that in the east-west direction, it was 25 feet from, measured from the face of the core to the edge of slab. And in the north-south direction, it cantilevered out 30 feet. And they said that they can go a little bit longer than that, but that's sort of like the sweet spot for this kind of a floor plate. And, so you basically have got this kind of like, plate that's sort of flapping in the breeze, and you're lifting it up, and they've got these kind of like, I don't really know what they call them, but I'm just going to call them kind of like these lock-in columns. They're not load-bearing columns. They're basically columns that lock the floor that you just lifted into place to the floor above. And it's just,
interesting.
It prevents sway and everything else.
Do those stay?
They stay. They stay.
I was wondering because, you see like these two, the two cores are the superstructure for the whole building, and everything else is kind of like cantilevered floor plates with curtain wall. I was wondering if there's any other interstitial vertical structure. So they are, and they're hangers. That's interesting.
Yeah. So they're not structural though. They're just basically there to kind of like gravity. Lock it in. Yeah. But they're, if you look at some of the photos that I sent you, you'll kind of like zoom in and you can see like these little, stub columns along the perimeter.
Okay.
If you look up to the floor above, it's got basically like these little green squares that's where they kind of like sit to, and then you weld them in place, and then they fireproof that portion because like they do all of the fireproofing, they do all of the plumbing, they do all of the electrical, they do everything that would be running above ceiling at an ergonomic level at the ground.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine worker safety is a big issue.
Yeah,
but like the other thing that really I just get the sense of here is that this is way more like a manufacturing process than a construction process.
Right.
Obviously it's still construction, but it's kind of like this is a take on prefab, if you want to call it that, in a much different way than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, yeah. So think about this. So and I'm kind of reading a quote from this. This is like, it's a system that turns construction into a manufacturing plant. We're not putting people on beams 100 feet in the air that need to be tied off.
Right.
And it really is. And so even OSHA has approved that if they wanted to, they said they don't because it's just their own internal safety, that people could be working or, like on that platform as it's being lifted up into place because it's considered a platform until it gets locked into place. Then it becomes a floor.
Yeah, because there's no open holes in it, right? It's a full enclosed platform. It's so interesting. Like I'm just thinking like how much it could kind of speed things up by all the work constantly just being done on the ground. And the way it speeds up is you don't have to convey stuff 16 floors up, right?
Right, exactly.
You just build the whole thing down there and then you just send it up.
And so once it goes into place, that floor is fully enclosed. It's weather tight because the facade that they put on is windows in place, walls in place, insulation in place. All of the exterior envelope is in place. And it's basically, if you think about the way that we do like a insulated metal panel facade and the dry fit system where it's basically gasketed together, right? It's sort of a concept like that, but it's, metal stud walls, glazing, metal. This particular one is a metal panel exterior, insulation and all that other stuff. But that's all up and ready to go. They put each floor's facade up in 2 days because it comes out to the site as a panelized system.
Yeah,
everything's already there.
Huge efficiencies in kind of the manufacturing mindset of this type of a building. And it's not like that awesome of a looking building, but it totally fits. It fits like this process fits the building. These are not mutually exclusive. They do need to go together, I think.
Yeah. I wasn't 100% enamored with, the design of the building. But I honestly think that, so this is the one thing that he kind of kept stressing. He goes, this is a proof of concept.
Yeah.
He goes, we don't
steps.
expect to make money off of this. But we do expect to, because it was funny is that, there's of course architects on this, and so they're all asking very architect-y questions.
Mm-hmm.
and mine as well, because I was like, so when let's say the first few floors, was that where you were working your kinks out? And he was like, starting to break down is like, the first floor took 2 months. The second floor took, a little bit less, and then
Sure.
a little bit less and a little bit less as he was going down. And so they kind of like, this is the first time we've ever built a floor and jacked it into place, because this is the first time
There's
we're
a learning
doing
curve. Sure.
And so there was a learning curve.
Yeah.
And so then I asked him, I was like, okay, so when everything is said and done, you have a 15-story building. How long is it going to take you? He said 15 months. Okay, let that sink into everybody who's done, any
I've never done a
mid-rise
15-story building.
mid-rise, high-rise buildings.
Yeah.
I'm doing a 15-story building in downtown Baltimore right now, 32 months.
Yeah.
Now, it is a little bit different because it's a phase while occupied. It's an existing building that we're, demoing the skin, and then building that skin, and then moving everybody over into that one and everything. So there's a whole bunch of logistics in there.
Yeah. This is a brand new building from the ground
This is
up.
a brand new building. But the thing about it is what did you not see on that site in those photos was tower cranes.
Yeah, that's what I was
There are other
thinking.
buildings down the road that are being built conventionally with tower cranes.
And tower cranes are like the most expensive piece of the construction
Exactly.
process. Yeah.
There's going to be a tower crane on my site for 32 months.
And how much is that per day?
Exactly. I told him that I actually told him how long the tower crane was sitting there, and his jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, oh my God, do you know how much money that would be? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that's the thing is like, there was no other way around my project not having one. But in cases like this, if, you can get around it,
Yeah.
I think they had a tower crane, or at least a mobile tower crane for the 2 cores.
Mhm. Yeah, well, yeah, they had to build those from the ground up.
Right.
They look like they're cast in place. So
Right. So once you get those there, then you can demobilize the tower crane and they're gone. So if say you build those 2 cores, and they're pretty meaty cores too, they're those.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the entire structure, and it's like where everything bears on.
Sure.
Like you weld, basically you bolt and weld all of these cantilever floor plates to these center cores, and it was such a. I mean, architects are going to pick apart design and all of that other stuff. But I honestly divorced myself of like that criticism and just really try to embrace thinking about what this could do for a lot of different places that, a lot of money is tied up into site logistics.
Sure. Yeah.
And to eliminate a lot of that, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you're building the floor, you're building your 15th floor
First.
on the same footprint as your first floor.
Yeah.
And you're just lifting it into place and lifting it into place and so on and so on and so on. And so like, think about like your lay down space and all that other stuff has now been condensed because you're essentially creating like a little manufacturing floor plate. Yep. It was really interesting.
That is interesting. I think that the thing that I wish that I saw here, Cormac, was photos from up in the building.
They would not let us. They actually,
I can imagine.
they would not let us. I try. I mean, I even said, if I go around the corner, it'll just like snap off some shots of this. And they honestly, the second you walked on the site, you had to put your phone away. And one person who wasn't in that whole rundown came in, they pulled their phone out and started taking pictures, and they were quickly escorted off of the property. It's just like, he was like, oh, I wasn't as part of this. He goes, well, that's, he's like, either that or you just like give us your phone.
Yeah. Right.
And so, but I mean, and I get it. Like right now they're really just trying, I mean, it's theirs. It's it's their, I guess their trademark, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Well, but and they are doing it in public. So I mean, obviously, not everything is just out in the open, but for the most part, you can just drive by and take pictures of this thing, and there it is. It's got to be kind of unnerving as people drive by and watch those first couple floors go up, and it's like, what is going on
Oh,
here?
oh my gosh. I mean, the
Yeah,
first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell is that?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then because I happened to be going to an event like right next door to the building the first time I'd seen it. And it really looks like this disconcerting kind of like lollipop type thing.
Yeah.
It's all top heavy and all that other stuff. But honestly, for us, you walk up and you look at it and it basically says, lift built.
Yeah.
And you like, okay, what does that mean? And then you look back and you look that and you're just like, oh, really?
I wonder. This can't be the first building that they've done like this. Not they in particular, but just on the planet.
there have been a few buildings in the past, and they said it's like this is not the first time, but this is the first time using this technology,
Okay.
and this is the first time we're doing it, and nobody really actually does it like there was, I guess, some in like the 70s, I
And
think.
somebody else was like, yeah, for good reason.
It might have been, but
Maybe.
But back then, though, I almost feel like the technology might not have been there.
Sure.
The technology's there now. And it is so like on the four corners of each of the cores, tucked in close to the core. And if I'm giving trade secrets away, are basically, four, let's just call them elevator motors. But they're wrapped around the cables, and then the cables go down to basically a metal elevator platform that then holds up the actual platform itself. And it just gets lifted, so like they kind of like creep it up, using these. But I mean, it's just, it's so crazy to even think the way that they're doing this. It's
kind of anti-gravity. Yeah.
It is, and we always joke about it. It's just like, what would make this building better is levitation. They're not in levitation, but they're,
this is Skyhooks.
It's Skyhooks. It totally is. We've always hoped for Skyhooks too, and there you go. It's Skyhooks.
This is it.
And then they take, then of course, obviously they remove all of that stuff out of there, and then there's going to be a larger podium down below with, like their because this is kind of a mix between, it'll have some retail at the bottom, then it's going to have, a hotel, and then condos above. And so then it'll have some of like the condo amenities, and then the pool, like the restaurant amenities and things like that. So it'll have all of that and kind of a podium below. And that'll probably be more conventionally built, but it'll still be with like the panelized systems and all of that other stuff. And they'll be able to like mobilize that a lot faster because like the exterior portions will be done before like the actual structural interiors get done.
Do you know if all the interiors and stuff are done before they jack it up, or do they just have like normal trades going in there after the fact?
So because they lay everything out, they know how long this wall or that wall or the furring wall or all of that other stuff, where the penetrations are going to go and all that other stuff. So then they panelize the interior walls. So then they just stack all of the interior walls up, and then once it gets up and lifted into place, then it gets assembled. Then essentially they just lift it in place, bolt it in place, and then
so it goes up kind of as a shell, but with all of these parts inside the shell.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. So that there can be a crew then once it gets like locked into place, and they're working up there while the crew who builds the shell is down on the ground again.
Exactly.
They never left the ground, and they're building the next one. Oh,
and so the crew that's up in the air doing that, the finishing work, they're in a fully weather tight environment. So they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Interesting.
It really sort of is.
That's a cool new thing.
Kids these days and their technology.
Innovation. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, that was fun to talk about a project. So again, if anybody ever invites you to go visit a building, the answer is yes.
The answer is always
you learn
yes.
new things. You always learn new things. And talk to the contractors.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
And then off to off to the side where you see like so it was interesting is like you had like the project manager, the developer, he was out there, he was talking, and a lot of people were asking questions, and then the construction project manager was kind of standing off to the side. And of course, I walk over to the construction project manager and start talking to him about, just like, the process and everything else, because, you know, those construction project managers, they're always like the salty guys that,
oh yeah,
they've got the stories, they've got the real stories and stuff. And honestly, he's
wearing cowboy boots. And,
yeah, steel toe cowboy boots,
yes,
but
right.
still. But I mean, he was like very forthcoming, and like even the developer was kind of like, chiming in as they were kind of like tag teaming and stuff. And they aren't going to sugarcoat it and say that, oh, it was just an absolute breeze. They're saying this is a building that's a proof of concept, and we're basically making it up as we go along.
What a fun challenge, though. I mean, I'm sure people they've been waiting their career for something different.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Well, go to archispeakpodcast.com/episodes/286, and you can see photos of this that Cormac took.
Yeah.
That way you'll see them, because they're not going to show up in the podcast player. They're going to just show up on the webpage that the episode is on.
And if you don't go there, then just look up the Exchange Building Detroit, or Exchange Tower in Detroit, and that will take you to the lift build system, and you'll see videos and all that other stuff, and it's very crazy cool.
Yeah, I'm looking like in your photos, and right on one of the towers it says xcdetroit.com. So
yep, that
will get you some images.
Yeah,
cool, man. Well, fun. Thanks for sharing that.
All right. Yeah,
that's
totally.
Cool. All right, until next time.
See you all.
Thanks for listening. This show is part of the Gable Media Podcast Network. See all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. You can help support what we're doing here by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help get the word out, and don't forget to share it with your friends. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment on the website at archispeakpodcast.com, where you can find our entire catalog of shows. Talk to you soon.